I'm gonna start recording this. Hey, Matt, how are you? Glad you could join.
Hey, yeah, doing all right. My connection's a bit spotty, but
Oh, okay, no
I can
worries.
hear you okay.
All right, well, we will record today because I am now officially remembering every week to upload this to YouTube, so that's cool. I end up sending probably five, 5 or 6 people the link that like to attend these but have maybe full-time jobs or whatever, so they watch it later. But so I brought Mike on here because he is well, as everyone knows, like a good portion of like 90% of our job is managing expectations. There's always going to be a different market. It will always change. And so part of what makes you a great agent is to not only know what the market's doing, but also how to manage your, clients' expectations. So that way they are in the know, and that way they are not, it's as positive an experience as possible, and you can surpass those expectations. So Mike, what are some things that you are noticing? And Ryan is in Colorado. I think his market's still pretty intense right now, kind of like the Oregon market was, May or earlier. But what are some things that you're seeing in the market right now for sellers specifically?
Well, I am seeing for sellers that, it's kind of slowing down for them now that we're seeing an increase in inventory, because of the rate hike, several months ago. Sellers have been trying to get like on the tail end of the seller's market that we've had going on. So we're seeing a lot of inventory coming into play now. And with that, buyers have more options. And with buyers having more options, they're not going to settle on a house that they don't have to buy, right? So we're just seeing more inventory, with higher rates. We're seeing it's just more of a balanced, healthy market.
Yeah. And when did you notice that shift start to happen?
Not too long after rates went up. I would say probably a month after rates went up, things started turning. So
yeah. So what kind of with the clients that you're dealing with right now, like what kind of expectations are you noticing that they have or still have that maybe you need to educate them on, or really what's it called, like help manage or change their expectation?
yeah, so with new buyers coming on or new sellers hitting the market, they're still kind of under the impression that they're going to get 100,000 offers over asking price, not having to do anything to sell the home, right? And that's really not the case anymore. So coming into working with a new seller, just letting them know like, hey, like we may be sitting on the market a little longer than you might have wanted. We're not going to see potentially a ton of offers. So kind of just managing those expectations of price point, like pricing is huge. You don't want to come in too high. You don't want to come in too low. It's just 6 months ago, the homes were selling themselves, right? Like now we're having to make an actual like effort and have strategy involved when it comes to that.
Right. Yeah. And some things that even 6 months ago, you were seeing inspection periods totally waived, not recommended, but that was something that was happening. Something that buyers were wanting to do, just knowing that they could finally get a house. And also buyers asking for repairs was not much of a thing in the kind of the last crazy market that we had. But right now, like sellers are, their cousin sold a house, last January, and they expect, the story from that sale is what they're expecting right now. And we just have to reset that mindset a little bit.
Yeah, so something that we chatted about before. So we just had some seller clients recently. They're really stubborn and hard-headed, and they had it set in their mind that they were going to get X amount of money because of some house they saw down the road sell. And like, they don't really understand what all goes into comps and how we kind of figure those things out. So, I ideally we would have priced probably about 650. They wanted to do 675. And, they're under the impression like we just spent $40,000 on our backyard. I'm like, that's really cool that you have a really cool backyard now, but that doesn't translate into getting that money back in your pocket now, unfortunately. So, so we went on at 675. They did,
After a lot of
yeah.
education.
So some sellers aren't going to listen, right? So, but it's our job to at least manage those expectations and let them know what to expect. So fast forward a month, we're still at 675. We still haven't sold because we're priced too high because they didn't listen, right? So we finally just withdrew. And that was
Well, a
unfortunate.
lot of that was personal reasons because
Yeah, it's
course it's not happening anymore.
yeah.
Yeah,
So and so I don't know. And a lot of it came down to them thinking that they knew the market, right? They're like, the house behind me is only 300 square feet more, and they're selling for 100,000 more. I'm like, also, that house has 3 more bedrooms. It has a 3-car garage. It has a flat lot. Like those things are going to sell. Like the square footage, the bedrooms, like that. Like, and on top of that, we were still priced higher per square foot. So I was like, it's not how it works.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
and just because you own a home doesn't mean you're a real estate agent. It doesn't mean that you understand how to sell a home. Like that's why we're here.
Yeah.
To manage expectations and help you, so.
Yeah, and something that Mike and I do is in any situation, so any situation, this one included, is we always tell the clients kind of any scenario that could happen because we can only control so much. Sometimes there are, like an appraisal, like, the buyer, like there are things that can happen that are outside of our control. So we can do everything we can to try to control all we can on our end. So when we're educating them and managing expectations, and again, this is translates to every single scenario during a transaction, but we always tell our clients, this is like worst case scenario. This would be if everything that could go wrong goes wrong. And whenever Mike and I bring something like that to someone, we always have like our backup solutions, like locked and loaded, ready to go. So they know we are ready if that happens. And if that happens, they're not surprised and they haven't lost faith and trust in us because we've already discussed it. We also tell them, probably what will happen. So typically like the norm of what happens, like this could happen, worst case, this is probably what will happen. We go over that scenario. And then also like best case scenario, that's usually what they're asking, what they want. But sometimes it is the stars would have to align. So Mike and I always aim to surpass expectations every single time. But that way, no matter what happens, like you've already gone over all of the scenarios with them and educated them accordingly. And you have solutions locked and loaded no matter what happens. So that is key to never disappointing someone, even if an outside influence comes in and changes the transaction in any way. So.
Yeah, and I love numbers and data, and like you may have opinions, but numbers are numbers, right? Data doesn't lie, like the numbers are the numbers. So it's always nice to have that to be able to reference when you're talking with somebody about pricing or whatever else.
Yeah. Does anybody have any input or questions thus far or experiences?
Yeah, I mean, a big thing for me is talking about resistance points. I usually approach sellers with looking at comps, and then I also try to find listings that expired or things that stayed on the market too long and didn't sell. Look at FSBOs. And if it's residential, you can look at price per square foot. and say the market clearly has resistance at this point for this type of home, which matches your criteria. So if you ask me to do some stupid price that's $20 a square foot over, this is what's going to happen. And people seem to understand resistance, and then they start thinking like if they're in a market. Whether or not they listen is always up in the air.
But you did your part. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's really good. I mean, that's showing them facts and numbers, which don't lie. You know, there can always be that crazy scenario. There's always going to be an exception to every rule, but that is, you can very confidently be like, this is what is predicted to happen. So yeah, I love that. Resistance. That's good. Good.
At least I get to sound like I'm right if it plays out that way. So
Yep,
it's gratifying, but that's all.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's definitely the case sometimes, but we can just do our part. Yeah, so you know, the other thing that Mike and I were going to do, unless someone wants to volunteer as tribute, was a good old-fashioned role play scenario, because it is, even though role play is weird and it feels unnatural, just like anything, the more you rehearse it, the more you say it, the more you kind of mentally put yourself in that headspace, the more natural it comes out. And when you're actually sitting down with a client to say it. So I recently actually was in EXP World, and I stumbled into an auditorium where they were doing role play for circle prospecting, and I was terrified, and I like volunteered, and then I really regretted it. And there was like 100 people in the auditorium, and I was just like, what did I do? And it was like the best experience ever. It really, I stumbled my way through it, and I did it, and I felt really proud of myself afterwards. And now one of my team members who has a subscription to RedX, he just got me a list, and I'm actually going to call because I feel confident after doing that role play. So never discount it, for sure. Would anybody want to take part in like role playing, setting expectations for a seller, like as if you're in a listing appointment? Mike and I can do it if no one wants to, but give you guys a chance. All right, babe, do you want to be the seller or the agent?
Oh man, surprise me.
Okay, you be the agent.
Okay.
All right, so we're discussing the strategy for whenever we list my home. You have the listing appointment. I've said I'm going to use you, but I have a little bit unrealistic expectations. Sound good?
All right. Hit me.
All right. Okay, so I was thinking, we should, list the house at 600,000 because my neighbor that they just listed theirs for 600,000 like in March, and that's not very long ago. So I know I could at least get that, and maybe have a bidding war of some sort.
Yeah. What did our comps come out at before I approach?
Oh yeah, good point. Right now, like say 575.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, from the comps that I ran, it's like we're looking more at like 575. We don't want to come on too high, because if we do, we're going to sit on the market a little longer than you'd like. Then we're going to eventually, have to price drop all the way down to where I'm suggesting that we go. And then by that time, people are going to be like, oh, wow, there's some blood in the water. We can get a little bit more out of these guys. They're willing to drop this far. Let's see how far they can actually go. So it's really important that we come on not too high, not too low, but right in the sweet spot.
Well, yeah, but I just know that like when the neighbors sold their house, it went really fast. Like, so, and it hasn't been very long. So I mean, why can't we price? I mean, it has the same, I think it's very close to the same house as mine. So, I don't know what they listed theirs at, but they told me they sold it for 600,000, like in March. So I don't know why are your comps coming out different than what they sold their house for?
Well, their house is 400 square feet bigger, and it has an extra bedroom. So those do play a factor when it comes to comping. So your house isn't quite there. You know, they have some higher end finishes and updates in their home, from what I could tell from the pictures that I reviewed. And you know, I'm not trying to roast your house or anything, no. But you know, that there's a little more updated. So those comps do factor into that. So
All right. And kind of what I was getting at there too, back into Jordan mode, was the neighbors said that their house sold for 600,000. But that doesn't mean maybe it was listed at 575. So the seller is anticipating multiple offers and then selling for 25 above list. So kind of educating how the market, like, how would you say that the market has changed since March, and that there aren't usually multiple offers anymore, at least not here in Oregon. And unless it's a very low price house. You know, the reasons behind that, and
you know,
not
and it
to
could have been a
expect
cash
that.
offer.
We will try for that, but not to expect it.
Yeah, and you know, there could have been a cash offer. Like, we don't know what kind of concessions were given. Like,
Yeah,
there's a lot of different factors involved. So
yeah, because we're really seeing that right now. Matt, I'm curious about in Southern Oregon. Have you noticed that? Is the market shift in your market, you know, similar?
Yeah, yeah, I'd say overall that's pretty much the case. It's not too far off that average, but we're really in the second quarter of this year is when we saw more of the market shift, and so you know, dealing with listings in that time frame of the summer, you know, is kind of where you saw that happen.
Yeah, so the main thing is, you know, people might be expecting to net more than, you know, market value. That was a thing that was happening. It is not happening as often now. They might be expecting it to move really fast, which can totally happen. And there are things we can do to get to promote that, and to try to have them, you know, under contract quickly, but that doesn't necessarily won't happen. You know, we always want to, what is it? Under promise and over deliver. So that's part of managing expectations, like, you know, and just going over the numbers with them. If they're not a data person, you know, have it, you know, you might not spend your whole listing appointment looking at numbers, but if they are, that's something that will speak to them. So just have them available and do touch on them at minimum. And you know, it's just educating them and showing them what's going on in their neighborhood. So so yeah, that it is important to manage seller expectations, you know, as you discuss your marketing strategy, because right now, with any market that's in the middle of a shift, we can't predict exactly what will happen like we could 6 months ago, a year ago. So it's pretty much going over all the scenarios, the education, and the numbers, and then doing your best to surpass their expectations. But any other input or comments? We only have a few minutes left.
I'll say a couple things.
Yeah.
If you want, I can get you guys a chart of a general chart of where interest rates are at over that last 6 months.
Yep.
Because that plays a big part in someone's monthly payment when they're purchasing a house. So would that be something helpful for you guys to have when you're talking with your sellers? Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Let me write a little thing on my to-do list.
Perfect. Yeah, if you send it to me, I can distribute that out. And sorry if you hear my dogs doing weird things.
Just doing weird things.
And the other thing I don't know if you guys, do you guys know what 2-1 buy downs are right now? Yes, no.
Isn't that what we talked about?
Buy down.
Matt
does.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mike and I.
Me too, but yeah, you spend money to get a short-term relief on your payment, and then it goes.
Well, yeah. So it's the key is it's a seller buy down. So if the seller wants to move, you talked about ways to get the house to move faster. So in the scenario you're talking about, you might offer a 2-1 buy down, which would cost the seller about $9,000, $10,000 for in the range of the price of house you're talking about. Gets a big difference for the buyer in their first 2 years of monthly payments. So that can encourage someone to choose that house versus some other house, to say, hey, we're gonna be saving 10 grand over the first couple of years in payments. And it's basically all the seller's doing is prepaying interest for the buyer. So for the seller, it means instead of dropping the price maybe 20,000, listing at 20,000 lower, they list at 20,000 higher and offer this seller buy down credit of 10 grand. And I can, if you shoot me a scenario on a house, I've got a spreadsheet I can throw together that can show you what you're getting. So just if you send me a scenario, I'm happy to send that through if you want to try and market it that way.
Cool. Yeah, actually. And hey, Jesse, we're almost done, but thanks for hopping on. It's nice to see you on here. But yeah. So partnering with lenders when you're preparing your market for listing and discussing these things. So we have Ryan on here, we have Tony on here, 2 amazing lenders. So Ryan's talking about looking at those things and then marketing it that way. It will set you head and shoulders above the rest. You wouldn't believe how many listings that maybe I'm looking for buyers looking at these listings, and it's very clear that the agent it's obviously not eligible for one type of loan, and they're marketing it like that. And that is something that's within the agent's control that can really interfere with the transaction, cause problems. So, so if you're doing your homework and talking to a lender about your listing and discussing these types of things before even listing it, it will allow you to, when you're discussing things with other agents or even, in the remarks, to get buyers' juices flowing and their minds thinking creatively, it will set you head and shoulders above the rest. And it does create more potential for it to, get under contract faster. So yeah, super important stuff. But yeah, so, I mean, it's time to hop off. Tony and Ryan, do you guys want to throw your emails into the chat, just because we have some awesome agents on here? Welcome, Brandon. He just passed his test in San Diego, California. So everyone send your clients to Brandon if you need a San Diego area agent. So that's exciting. And perfect. Ryan, are you or Tony, are you guys in California at all?
We have offices in California, and I have opportunities sometimes to send clients to realtors in California. Sometimes there's a need from our California branches looking for realtors for California too. So
okay, cool.
So we have, American Pacific Mortgage is across a lot of the states. So
awesome. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And then Ryan, how about you? I know you're licensed.
Yeah, I'm in California too. I'll just if you're working with me, I just work with you, and we work with another broker in our office. One guy I work with real close, Rick, is in California. So we'll figure out a way to get you helped quickly. In California. I'm also in Arizona, and if you're there, Colorado, of course, where I'm sitting at the moment. So
in Oregon. So
New Mexico, a few other places, Tennessee. So
oh yeah, that's right. I do have someone in Tennessee to introduce you to.
Oh, very good. I'm going to remind you of that if you don't.
Yeah. Do text me. So anyways, so thank you, everybody. We have some awesome, I love having, lenders on here because of their input, and also they're good connections for us to have when we need, someone that we trust to give us solid info like this. So, all right, I will talk to all of you guys later. If you have certain things you want to learn on these or talk about, just send me the topic request and we'll make it happen. So
thank you, Jordan. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
bye.
Thanks.
Bye.